Author Showcase. I'm Dixie Jarko, your host with Tom Cannon, and today we're excited to have KW Penndorf, a children's author, and so much more. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate being here.
Great. So tell us what, you brought one of your books, The Dragon Egg. Tell us how you started writing.
So I started writing because basically I'm the youngest of four, I'm the natural storyteller, and I got this idea because my sister's husband is from Denmark, the country, and I got to go visit there for their wedding. Wow. And then I saw some Viking graveyards, which were really interesting and neat. And then about 13 years later, I just got this flash of an idea of this little girl in the Viking graveyard with a round oval object. And I just, then I just decided I'm going to build it. What's that object? What's going on?
So let me go back to the fourth child storyteller. Does that translate to liar? Because I'm the fourth child too.
Right.
I just wonder, is that like a euphemism?
I do have to find another way to say, well, you know, it is a work of fiction, so I guess basically it's lies.
All right.
So you never considered being an author until that came to you?
Well, you want to know what's funny is I always wanted to be an actress. So, and then I wanted to go into the news, which maybe they're kind of related, I'm not sure. Yeah. And then I never thought I wanted to be a writer, but my cousin said she has a letter from me where we were just chit-chatting back and forth, and I put in the letter, when I get older, I want to be an author.
When you were little, you were
and I was like, wow, that's interesting. So, yeah, there it goes, right?
Yeah. Cool.
And so did you always, was your idea for your story, was it always like a young adult book or?
I think so for this one. I knew that I didn't want, you know, there's going to be 9 books and Freya's going to age.
That's pretty ambitious.
Yeah. Well, there are 9 Viking realms, so she has to go to every realm. But I never really wanted Freya, I wanted it to be an adventure story and not that middle, you know, not that young adult and adult can't have adventure stories. I just liked the idea of a little kid on a quest and not necessarily it needs to be a romance because it's an older person and you might think it's going in that way. So I just kind of decided, let's stick with little kids. No one will think the romance aspect should be there and then move forward.
How long did you, okay, you got the flash when you were at a wedding. When was that? Like years ago? Or?
2007, but not at a wedding. I was actually en route to work on a train.
So you went to the wedding and then later?
13 years later.
The idea came.
Yeah,
wow.
Exactly. So, and I remember being on a train thinking, okay, well, I knew it was a Viking graveyard because I recognized the stones that are known to a Viking graveyard. But I was like, looking out the window, I'm like, did I just pass a graveyard? Like, what just made me think of that? So, So I got the idea, let's say 2007. Then I kind of piddled with it, played with it, had some ideas, no editing, and then really started working on it. And I would say 6-7 years into it, it became truly polished. Yeah. But that's not working on it every day.
Did you polish it all yourself, or did you use an editor? Or?
No editors. Wow. So I
have a beta reader, somebody who said, "Oh no, you need to change this."
You know, I have to confess.
That is so brave.
Well, or not. I never went to school to write, so I didn't know the ins and outs of what you're supposed to do. I just knew you're supposed to go get published, maybe find an agent or find a publisher.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about beta readers.
Yeah.
I didn't know the idea of it. And to be honest, I was always so busy that I felt rude asking someone to read my work when I didn't have the time to read their work in return.
Oh, yeah.
So
they do kind of expect that.
Yeah, exactly. So, then I found a publisher, and then they were my beta reader.
So tell us about how you found it. Oh, I just went out and found a publisher.
Right, yeah. That'd be great.
A lot of our listeners are writers, so tell us how you found that publisher and when you knew it was done.
I went to a couple conferences. So the conferences were great. You meet and greet people, you network with people. One of the conferences I went to was almost kind of like speed dating. You sat down at a table like this, you sat across from the publisher or the editor, and you had literally maybe 5 minutes with them. And you just pitched your book to them. But the publisher who was really interested in my book at the time, I knew them for romance novels. And something had happened with where I wanted to pitch my book and that person couldn't make it and so on and so forth. So I kind of just sat back like, well, my book is nothing that's going to interest your taste and so on and so forth. And then when the lady started asking more questions, I was like, well, that's cute. you're into it, you know. And then she said, well, we're actually opening up for, you know, the younger
serendipity.
crowd. Yeah, and I was like, oh, let me get all of a sudden a little more serious. So, yeah, no, that's how that came about. So I highly recommend conferences.
So you went to a conference and you pitched to a publisher and they said, yes, we're interested, and then send me chapters, or?
They actually asked for the full manuscript.
Wow,
so
that
it's
is so rare.
very excited. Yeah,
Yeah.
very excited, because I had 3 agents prior to that who I had met at a conference, and they asked for, you know, the first 3 chapters.
Yeah.
But that was before it ever hit an editor. And
Yeah,
so
because they say you've got to have an agent.
well, yeah, but they also say you got to have an editor, and that part's true because they all had to politely decline it. They're like, it's a great story, it just is not polished, and I can't pitch it when it's not polished, and I unfortunately don't have the time to polish it. So that's why they had to give me, but it was wonderful feedback. It wasn't like a blank letter, dear whoever you
So
are.
when they say polished, what do you think, you know, did you know what they meant?
Yeah, I felt it then.
Oh, okay.
My book at that stage was one of those where if it had been published at that time and you came back criticizing it, I would have said, you're right.
Oh.
But now I feel my book is exactly where I want it to be. So if you come back criticizing it, I'll say, well, that's your opinion. You know, you're welcome to that.
So who finally edited it?
At the publishing house.
Oh, the publishing house, they gave you an editor.
Yes,
Wow.
exactly. So I know, it was very exciting.
Yeah, because usually you have to pay for that service when you're when you have a book that you're shopping around. You're like, okay, well, I have to get an editor.
Right.
So did it have to go through? Did it have to go back and forth several times?
Yes, and we actually switched a couple editors throughout the process. So I had some great feedback from some, and some others where I was like, I'm not feeling the way you either talk to me or where you think my book should be going. It felt more like, are you ghostwriting my story for me? Like, no, thank you. So, but I had some really good feedback on some of them. Some, one thing I think you're probably about to ask, what kind of feedback?
Not just that, but why would you change editors? How does that come about?
Okay, well, one of them was we just didn't mesh. You know, it was just kind of a personal thing. Like I said,
Yeah.
it felt like they were trying to ghostwrite my story. And I was like, no, I already have a vision. I need someone who's not going to say, I think Freya should be doing this. Rather, I need someone who's going to say, did you catch that you didn't talk about XYZ in paragraph 1 and you brought it up in paragraph 2?
yeah.
I need more like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
And then another thing, I think a personal family issue came up for one editor, and
Okay.
she had to switch out.
so
So,
it's
you know,
just-
things like that, yeah.
And yet, I mean, that's a fine line between, you know, knowing your vision and then not listening. So it
Right.
seems like you
Yeah.
really ran that line the correct way.
Yeah, were you ever worried about that they were going to be like, oh, you're a diva. This is your first book. Shut up. Do what you
Well,
want.
you know what? I have to confess, I kind of felt like, am I being a diva at one point when we were talking about the cover art?
Oh.
So I was telling them what I wanted for the cover art, and they came back to me, and then they came back to me again. They said, why don't you just talk to the designer? And I was like, oh, am I being snooty about it? Or my other fear was, do you not get what I'm asking? Because I just wrote like 300 pages, and if you don't get what I'm asking, like in one page, what I want, you know, is it
Yeah.
not coming across? And then someone explained, at least in this instance, what happens for that is when someone has a true vision, it's easier to take the middleman out and then just talk directly to
Yeah.
the
It's like a
graphic
police
designer.
sketch artist almost.
Yeah, right. So then I was like, okay, cool. So not too diva-ish after that.
So what kind of feedback did you get?
The thing that was interesting for where my book had been was I knew it wasn't at its top spot. But I didn't, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where you say, I have this gut reaction that maybe I should do X or Z, but no one told me to do it, so I'm not going to do it yet.
Yeah.
Well, then I got that feedback. So quick example is Freya goes back in time to the Viking era, and while writing it, I was just writing any dialogue. And one editor was like, you know, I don't know that Vikings would say, hey, what's up, kind of language. You know, and I was like, you're right. And perhaps some book does show that, but I knew that wasn't the book I wanted. I wanted to sound historical.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'm definitely going to listen to that. Someone did point out something that is already like in the back of my mind, like, you know. And then when they brought it up, I was like, okay, I'm going to run with that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, yeah, so things like that where I said, I'll take that on.
So from the time they said, yes, we want this book, no, it's not in good shape, here's an editor, here's another editor, how long did that whole process take? Because some
Oh
people
my
think,
gosh.
oh gosh, print on demand and you can get your book like within a week, but you know.
Yeah.
How long
yeah.
did it take?
Well, this was a small publisher, not print on demand, so I don't know about that aspect, but this one was definitely a couple years back and forth, just because it was 1 month for me. I had to turn it around for them. 1
Sure.
month for them, and then there was that time of switching editors.
Oh, yeah.
Then by the time someone, when you leave someone, then you kind of start all over again. Not that people are finding things to change that no one else found, but you're trying to find time.
Yeah.
So
Because you work full time in addition to.
well, and not only that, but maybe you're editor 1 and we switched, and now you're editor 2. Well, you may not be free the day I switch.
Yeah.
You may have other books going,
Yeah.
so I have to wait for you to be free.
Yeah.
So that happens. So it's like, okay, no problem. Now I can go to work daily.
You're not worried about it.
Yeah, exactly. So.
So you said there are 9. Have you written the other 9 or?
In my head, yes. Book 2 is currently being worked on. I know exactly how book 9 will end, so I
Okay.
can't wait to get there.
Oh, neat.
And I know the bulk of what's happening throughout the series. Now it's pinpointing what's actually going in each book. So I'm hoping a book a year.
That's good.
Yeah, this one came out May 2015.
That
I'm
would be
hoping for
awesome.
May 2016 for book 2.
How are you promoting your books? You have a fantastic array going, and I just wanted to touch on that.
A lot. I do Facebook.
Give your website. Give your
yeah.
website.
Well, my website is kwpenndorf.com. And I have some things on the website right now. We're revamping it and trying to put more of some, I don't want to say blog aspect, but some more information there that maybe you could see on a Facebook page as well. But then I have my Facebook page I update a lot. Then I do a lot of events. The events vary, and I think they're so exciting because they vary. From school visits to library talks to I was at the Field Museum, which was really fun.
Tell us about that. That's exciting.
Yeah, I have to really thank, so let's go back real fast to my sister who married a Dane. So this year, her Danish family had come over to visit, and one of them said, oh, hey, by the way, the Field Museum currently has an exhibit on the Vikings. And at first I was like, well, that's cute. Like, thanks for sharing, you know what I mean?
I need more Vikings in my life.
Right, yeah. But I was getting ready to start writing book 2, and I thought, you know what, like, I would enjoy, that's something of interest to me. Maybe I'll go down and see what it's all about. And then as I was really processing what will be in book 2, minor spoiler alert, I need Freya's dad, who's a Viking archaeologist. He has to be out of the picture for some time. So I thought, well, maybe I could contact a curator who I could kind of Q&A during lunch or something and just ask what would make an archaeologist be away for, months at a time.
Yeah.
And then I got thinking, well, if I'm going to be down there,
Yeah.
let me contact the gift shop. So then I contacted the gift shop, and they were delighted to have me in, and I did a book signing there.
Wow. That's
So
really cool.
it was a blast, really, really fun. And it was kind of neat because it was in the Viking exhibit gift shop. So you're looking around and everything is Viking related, and you're like, oh
that
my
is so
gosh,
cool.
it's like the greatest little library for me.
So
Yeah.
the perfect audience.
Exactly, yeah. They just come right out of the exhibit, and you're like, here's another option.
Yeah.
And actually, we just went and heard Michael Perry speaking at the Wisconsin Writers Association.
Nice.
And he talked about just exactly that. Instead of just going where your publisher says, go to this bookstore, he went to the firefighters conventions, and he had an audience that really ate up his stuff.
Yeah.
That
that's
had
cool.
something in common with his book.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That really related well to him.
Well, and what's nice about the bookstores is you have a large audience walking through. But what's nice about fun events that are catered towards that audience, so say example the Field Museum, or I also went down to the Scandinavian Festival just outside Chicago.
Oh my gosh.
That was a blast because again, you're catered to that audience. So, but some of these events are neat because maybe if you go to your bookstore, it might just be local people purchasing your book. But when you do these events, now all of a sudden I had people from California visiting Chicago who, are bringing the book back to California. It's like, that's great because right now California is not on my tour dates,
Yeah.
so.
Now, you also did some signings out in New York, correct, at the book?
Yes, at BookCon. Yep.
Yeah,
so,
that's big.
Yeah, that was a
Tell us
real
about
blast.
that, because that's like a dream. I mean,
Well, for me, it was going home because I'm from New York, so it was a blast for me. So really, it was just an excuse to write off the ability to go home.
but still, I mean,
Yes.
BookCon is a big deal.
Yeah, so it was really fun, and Scholastic was right across from us, so it was really neat just to kind of see how it goes about. I didn't do BEA, so Book Expo America. That's during the week. I think I'm going to do that this year. It'll be in Chicago. I hear that's more of the networking for the industry. And then BookCon, which tends to be on the weekend, is more for the public.
Okay.
So what was great for me about that was I met the public.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of contacts for other schools because I've done, I did a Google Hangout. So
Oh,
I can
cool.
also offer like Skype visits. So that was really kind of fun to be able to say, okay, now I've got connections in that angle. Because as a middle grade book, schools are and libraries are obviously my favorite places to try and head up.
Oh yeah. So do you have a marketing plan per se? Did your editors help you with the marketing at all, or was it all you? Or
You know, it's kind of a hodgepodge of everything.
so you don't have a set plan? Oh, I'm gonna, this is my.
Well, we're about to release the ebook.
Right. That's exciting.
So
That'll
that
be available on Amazon.
it'll be available first on Kindle. We're toying with the idea of bringing it out on Nook, but Kindle has right now some interesting packages where I think you kind of go about it for a couple months and then you broaden it to other items. Like I think the iPhone or iPad or Apple, let's call it, also has some options. So no, I just lost my train of thought for that
Oh, we were
question.
talking about promoting, and did they give you a
right.
business plan or?
So for the ebook, we kind of do because I think that's a whole new world where I don't know how to go about that. I'm still curious how well it's going to sell because it's middle grade. I don't know if young kids are reading, say, Kindle or tablets. So
Seems like at our school they've got those little readers. The I don't know what they're called, but the whole book is on a little cassette, and they just carry it around with them.
oh,
An
that's pretty
audiobook?
cool.
Audiobooks, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, maybe one day I'll have an audiobook as well. So yeah.
But
go ahead.
you're saying that the younger readers still like that physical book.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I can say so far because the ebook isn't out yet. But we'll see what happens after the ebook comes
check
out.
back with
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, hopefully it'll be like I'm quitting my job.
When the movie comes out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, for now it's just a lot of meet and greets, a lot of face to face, and then try and get Skypes and those kind of interesting.
How much
things.
time do you spend a week or a month on marketing and Facebook and all the media stuff?
I'd say a couple hours,
Couple hours
a
a
week. Yeah.
That's a lot, yeah.
So
When you could be writing. And
well, yeah, I am trying to write,
Yeah.
but we still are trying to investigate things to go about this. The publishing house that I'm with, they don't have a huge kids market, so I'm by no means trying to say anything negative, but they aren't the gurus
Right.
of here's what works. So they have brought a lot of awesome people my way who have great information, but it's like I'm leaning on someone else's research,
Sure.
or I'm leaning on what did you do that maybe worked. I'm still trying to find more and more middle grade writers just so I can say, okay, what is working?
Yeah.
Right now I'm finding a lot of young adult writers, and a lot of times there's some overlap, but believe it or not, middle grade and young adults still sometimes are like light years away from each other.
so what makes something YA, young adult versus middle grade?
Other than age, because you might still get like, a fourth grader would enjoy my book, hence middle grade, let's say. But you might still get like a 15-year-old enjoying the book as well. But the young adult books, I tend to see maybe have more of a serious tone, or aren't so much just coming of age, but maybe, I'm falling in love for the first time, or something really bad personally happened to me. And you may not have a fourth grader connecting with that
Yeah,
yet.
that's true.
So,
And I was told in my experience that an editor told me, well, they're doing young adult all the way up to 21 years old now. And I was always, I was 15 to 18. But
Right.
even those boundaries are switching and kind of morphing.
well, I always thought middle grade was true. 6th grade, 7th
Yes,
grade, 8th
7th,
grade, yeah. But then the
But they're including the
schools.
lower and lower, yeah.
Well, I found that to be the
Yeah.
4th and 5th graders are just eating up the book, and I'm kind of questioning maybe the 8th graders are not. You know what I mean? Because
Be nice
maybe
to have
they're
a
more into
survey
young adult.
or
Yeah,
something, to know.
yeah. who's reading it?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I know older people are too, because I went to a book club and they were 40-somethings. So
Well, I always read what my sons read because I wanted to know what they were reading.
yeah,
And it's good literature, a lot of it. I
yeah,
mean.
yeah. A lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
and I like the idea of a crossover. I like the idea that parents would read the book with the kid.
Definitely.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Freya and her adventures?
Right? Yeah, right. We haven't even got there yet.
No, we haven't.
So Freya and the Dragon Egg, poor little Freya, she's about 12 years old, and she suffers from what I call middle child syndrome, which, ironically, as the youngest kid, I had no idea what that really was all about. So she wants nothing more than to fit in with her family. And her dad is world-renowned Viking archaeologist Dr. Anderson. And finally, she one day gets the opportunity to do something that's really going to make her dad proud. Unfortunately, she botches it up.
Oh, no.
The item that he says is in dire need to be hidden from the world, because if it's found, then all heck could break loose. You know how the Vikings believed in mythology? Well, we have every reason to believe that it wasn't just fictional, that it's real. So if this object gets found, then, you know, maybe some of that would come into our present day. So she's like, I'm on it. I can go hide this object. No one will ever find it. So in walks the Viking graveyard, which I had once been to. And she thinks, I'll go bury it there because even my dad's not allowed to dig up anything there. So while she's there, snooty older sister walks in and basically is like, I can't believe you are digging, you know, this protected land. Basically, give me this object that you have, and so on and so forth. And the only thing Freya can think of to do so older sister doesn't get it is she swallows it. And then bam, she goes back in time.
Oh, gosh.
So, yeah.
So
and then
it's
all
not,
sorts
it's
of
not
adventure.
a huge egg, then. It's
Right.
a smaller.
Well, you know, that's kind of the funny thing when writing, because obviously I was like, okay, a dragon egg, you know, and when I first got that vision, I was like, she definitely was holding something this big, and on the cover you can see something is slightly larger. Of course, that's artistical, you know, preference so that you can see the egg.
Yeah.
But then I kind of toyed with the idea that, okay, well, maybe if she were to bite it, because Freya goes back and forth through the time, so maybe if she were to take a bite, that's what's taking her back in time. And I was like, well, does the
Eventually,
egg, I mean, does it go bad? Like, what is, you know? And then I was like, what if someone else found it? And I had toyed with some of these ideas, like maybe someone else could find it and also follow her back in time. And it was just too many possible roads to take that I said, forget it. The egg is this big. She swallows it whole, done. So, and there's a different reason why she goes back and forth through time. Which I'm not saying right now.
Okay, that's fine. No spoilers.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's kind of the book in a nutshell. So she has to go through all 9 realms in order to complete her quest. It does not mean that each book will offer a new realm. You might see, you know, 2 or 3 in one book. I didn't want it to become formulated. I didn't want people to say, well, the next realm is going to be, you know. So
Were you happy with the cover? You said you had direct input with the author.
Yeah.
And were they what do you call it? Were they receptive to your ideas, or?
Absolutely.
Nice,
And we've
nice.
formed a really good bond. Her name is Lisa Amowitz, and she is just a fantastic cover designer.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, no, I love it. And the first sketch she had, I say Freya looked more like Farrah Fawcett. And at first I was like, oh my God, like, is that what I thought? You know, is that how it came across?
Oh, she read the book?
No, I
okay.
literally just told her, here's
right.
what I want, and the girl is 12. So we kind of went back and forth, and I said, make her a little bit more boxy, less, you know, older, you know, get rid of the flying hair, because it was much more Farrah Fawcett-y. So, and she just took every direction I had and knew exactly how to switch it up and change it up. And
That's nice, because a lot of people don't have control over their covers from
Yeah,
the publisher.
right.
I didn't really when I...
Well, and I have an author friend who, her book has been published in other countries, and I'm making this up, I think her heroine is brunette, and she's like, look at this cover in this country, she's a redhead. You know, they're like, clearly they didn't read the book.
Yeah, they go with what sells a lot of times.
Yeah.
But that's neat that you got to... Now, you there was something about the pages you were telling us, that they're not, you didn't want them to be white?
Right, yeah, the first copy I got, the pages were in white. And I was like, whoa, you know, it just came across to me as too bright. it might sound weird, but I actually think it's a huge compliment when people say they fell asleep to my book. Yeah. You know, not boring, but it was like
those weird authors.
Right. My book is what they took to bed. And I just kind of thought white would just really like invigorate your mind.
Yeah.
And I wanted the cream, and all the books I knew had cream, and I wanted to look like the books I knew. So yeah, so I was
you
able
got
to
it
go
and you're
back.
like, oh, there's just something not right about
Yeah,
this.
exactly. And then when I got the cream copy back, I kind of compared the two, and I didn't realize that the white copy wasn't printing the interior art as clearly as the cream copy.
Oh.
So for whatever
So
reason.
did the artist do the interior art
Yes.
too? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then the art was more clear, popped better with the
Exactly.
cream color.
Yeah, and I would have thought, in all honesty, it'd pop on white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But no, it didn't. So these things are really fun for me too. So
Oh, yeah.
Freya's having an adventure. I'm having an adventure
Oh, yeah.
because you don't think about these things when you pick up a book. I don't. You know?
So are they in for all 9?
Yeah.
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 Wow.
They're on board.
So you've probably got the next 10 years, you're set.
Let's hope. Let's hope. Yeah. What I'd really like is to be able to just be set at home and write.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
So when do you write? When do you find time? Set
Oh, my
aside
goodness.
time? Is there a set place? Is there a set time of the day? Or is
Well, I would love to say that I can hold true to the schedule that I once created, but it doesn't take place like that. So I have a toddler at home. And that I want to be part of her life. I don't want to just say, "Oh, your dad is home now. Goodbye. I'm going to go write."
Must write.
Yeah. So I try to write when she goes to bed, but that doesn't always work for me because I'm so exhausted that by the time she goes to bed, it's like 30 more minutes and I'm in bed.
Yeah.
So I'm out by 9. So then maybe some weekends I try and write. And although I love writing in my house, little nooks and crannies or a couch here or even on my bed, whatever. But she's learning to like start writing letters, and she
funny.
sees me writing all the time. So she'll get a notebook and come to where I am because I handwrite my books.
Oh, you handwrite them. Okay,
And
I was
she's
gonna
like,
ask you
"Oh, I'm writing," and I'm like, "Yes, but now you're talking. Just pull me out of the story, even though we're not having a conversation." And so it becomes very difficult. So I'm currently behind on my schedule. So I got to up the game or be
what is
sick
your
one day at work.
Yeah.
How many, how many words a day? What is your schedule? If you,
Oh, it absolutely varies.
is this like 50,000? Or what are you?
Gosh, am I like 75, 80,000,
Okay,
something
so
like that?
this is
Yeah,
80,000.
yeah.
So in a year, that's
Well, to be honest, kind of here's what the schedule should look
8,000
like.
a month.
I've got to this nano writing month. The book needs to be kind of finished by December, January the latest, so that the art can take place.
Yeah.
So I can't say chapter 14 needs, this type of picture when I haven't written chapter 14.
Oh, yeah.
If I want the book to come out in May, that's what the schedule kind of needs to look like. So I need to be pounding out a chapter a week because then we still need to edit it.
Yeah.
But, hopefully the edits will go quicker this round because I
You
know
learn
my
stuff,
characters
yeah.
better. You learn. Yeah, exactly.
So you don't introduce many new characters, except when she goes to the other realms. They would
Right.
be.
I definitely introduce new characters, but I am also kind of like a homebody. Once I fall in love with some characters, I want to keep seeing those characters.
So do other people reincarnate, kind of, and
in the
come back
different
in this-
realms, you mean?
Yeah, well, the people she meets in book 1 definitely stay with her throughout the series.
okay.
So I like that. Some of the places she's visited in book 1, she keeps revisiting in book 2, 3, 4, and 5. But she definitely will be meeting new characters. I just don't like it all the time where it becomes so overpowering. You keep introducing new people,
Well, yeah.
especially for this age range.
Yeah.
I don't want them to say, I don't know who these people are anymore. Or I was so in love with this one character from, where'd he go?
Yeah.
So new characters get introduced every book, but they don't become necessarily the main drive of the book.
And the ones that the readers fall in love with the first book are still there for the ride.
Right, exactly. Because Freya will age. That's one thing I loved about some series that influenced
Sure.
me is the main character always aged.
And so how old will she be at the end, do you think?
I'm thinking about a year each book. So, maybe that 19-20 range.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I don't think there'll be, a month each book or 5 years each book.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And So what are your influences? What books did you grow up reading, or did you like?
Or authors, or
Well, the irony about that is I was not a big reader as a kid. I liked more magazines, so short, sweet, to the point, or I actually read below my grade level just because they were shorter and quicker books. I had a hard time finding books that I could stick with for, 200 pages. So Anne of Green Gables, one thing I really loved about that series is I say it was world building. And I know people say, well, it's not really a fictional book. I mean, like Anne could have existed in that real time that existed. And I said, yes, but I'm 100 years removed from that time. So for me, it is a fantasy place to visit. And I just loved reading the descriptions. They weren't boring to me. It flowed. I understood the characters. I cried, sorry, spoiler alert, when Matthew died. You know what I mean?
Oh, no.
And I was like, I didn't know a book could do that.
So it was kind of the turning point for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that was fiction. The type of reading that I really enjoyed before that, which is why I liked magazines, was maybe biographies. I had a second grade teacher who really influenced my ability to tell stories. Is during story time, she read from her diary.
Oh my gosh.
So it was really neat. She had these terrible older brothers.
Yeah, get fired for that.
Yeah, exactly.
It depends what's in your diary.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember snowball fights like she had with her brothers, and I just thought, this is real. Like, you really did these things. So I gravitated towards real stories, and I still love autobiographies and biographies. I love those stories.
So you're kind of doing that with Freya. This is her autobiography or biography.
Exactly, and that's how I want to try and write the story, is that people would say, oh, she really is a real person. Or, going back to the Field Museum, the curator I met was just fantastic. I was asking her more about Dr. Anderson, Freya's dad, and she was talking to me as if like, okay, well, I've got his resume right here, and he seems to be someone who, we might hire as well, and this is what would keep him abroad, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, that's so fun. Like, you're treating him like a real person. So, yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for with this series, is that maybe, maybe there's other readers out there like I was, who like the idea of stories, want to read stories, but don't always find something that they fall in love with. So I like the idea of a series, because once you find a book you like, please give me more of it.
Yeah, right, I'm the same way. I read everything by an author. Now, are you going to work on anything while you're working on these?
Well,
I know you seem like you're pressed for time, but
I actually have another book outlined, which is kind of a series as well. I just like the idea.
Yeah.
So if I don't read, say, historical fiction that I'm into or biographies, I really like light crime murder mysteries. So let's say Agatha Christie type of things, or the BBC, PBS, eat it up.
Yeah.
And I would love to do that at the middle grade, young adult age. I had taught for 1 year at a boarding school.
Oh my gosh.
And not that I would ever kill children as a teacher, but this boarding school, the campus just was the perfect setting for this type of, exactly. Yeah. And I kind of thought maybe the kid who would solve all these mysteries might age throughout the school, and by the time you graduate, whatever. So,
cool.
Yeah. And then I've toyed with some people have asked me, would Freya go there to the boarding school at all?
Oh, interesting.
And I said, well, it's kind of funny because when Freya is gone for so long, her parents have to create, you don't hear this in book 1, but they have to create kind of like an alias, where is our kid?
Yeah.
So they're going to say we sent her off to boarding school.
Oh, how funny.
And I was like, it is plausible that she could show up at that other boarding school.
Oh, that's funny. Well, we've enjoyed talking with KW Penndorf. Look for her series. Where can people find it? Where can they buy it?
Well, they can definitely find it online, Amazon and Barnes & Noble. It is also sold in Barnes & Noble stores, so I know Appleton keeps restocking it. I love that. It keeps selling out to my knowledge, so I'm super happy for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then any event I'm at, follow me on Facebook or my website, and
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Great.
This is Dixie Jarko and Tom Cannon for Author Showcase. And thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to be on Author Showcase, please contact us on our Facebook page or at oshkoshauthorshowcase@gmail.com. Otherwise, continue the conversation with Dixie and Tom via social media. Look for Dixie by searching for Daisy Jericho, and please check out her books, The Love Thief and Sparks Fly, on Amazon. can find Tom Cannon on many types of social media. And please check out his book on Amazon, It's All of Apathy. Our goal is to introduce local authors around Oshkosh and hear their stories. We want to thank the Oshkosh Public Library and the Friends of Oshkosh Public Library for supporting the creation of this show. If you are a writer and are looking for a community, we suggest the Oshkosh Area Writers Club and the Lakefly Writers Conference held each May.